This is big breaking news. It is Wednesday, December 18th, and a state of emergency has just been declared in California over the bird flu. Let's get into the details here really quick, guys. Please just hit that like and hit that subscribe. I'm posting every day, keeping you guys updated on this big urgent news, and it just helps to get the warnings out. So Governor Newsom just signed an executive order, and this is causing a statewide emergency in California due to the quote avian flu. And this is going to implement things like quarantine restrictions and also travel restrictions and movement restrictions of animals and potentially even people that are in certain areas and certain regions where these outbreaks are happening. And California accounts for almost 20% of the entire nation's dairy production, and especially the western side of the United States. California accounts for almost 50%, right? A much larger percent of the dairy production. So 20% nationwide, and they're saying that they have had hundreds and hundreds, over half of their production facilities are under quarantine right now from this situation, and this is part of the reason they have declared a state of emergency. This is also affecting egg production as well too, and this is part of the reason you could be seeing egg prices go up. All right, so let's get into the details here of this executive order that he just signed, all right, and the restrictions and the things that they are saying they're going to do in response. They're creating task force for this. They're creating new emergency response units specifically for this, and they're also mandating testing of all of the chicken facilities and also all of the dairy facilities. And they're saying the chickens have to be tested twice a week in some circumstances, and the dairy has to be tested every single week. So this is going to be very expensive for the farmers as well too, and that could potentially increase cost, and we could potentially see as well more positive cases, okay, whether it's just a false positive or it's a real positive. They're doing more testing, so there's going to be more positives, and then that's going to increase the quarantines and the shutdowns even if there were no symptoms initially. And something to note too is that the milk that you buy is pasteurized. It is boiled to a temperature that kills all pathogens and germs. That's what pasteurization does. And all the milk and dairy that you eat, unless it's raw milk coming from a farm or from your own cow or goat or whatever, it's been pasteurized. Okay, so the risk is very low, and these viruses cannot even live after the milk has been pasteurized. So this is what it says in the executive order that was just signed today by Governor Newsom in California. It says here that California accounts for almost 20% of the milk production in the U.S. across more than 1,100 dairies statewide. And it says between August 30th, 2024 and early December 2024, 641 dairies have confirmed positive tests for this flu across 9 California counties, limited to Central California mostly. All right, so over half, 641 out of 1,100 have tested positive, and they're saying that the 600 out of 641, 614 are now under quarantine currently, and 985 dairies are currently under surveillance testing statewide as well too, and part of the quarantine program. So they've already been taking over, but now it's official and they have to do it now. It says here that thousands of these tests are being completed each week that reflect the disease status of millions of animals, including testing every negative dairy in the state weekly and all poultry and disease control zones at least twice a week. Weekly testing for dairy subject to quarantine to establish they are free from disease before releasing quarantine. Testing in order to obtain movement permits for dairy and poultry farms as well, and additional testing at dairies and poultry farms for research. Okay, so they're saying that there's even movement permits that are now going into place for animals, and they're also requiring testing weekly or bi-weekly in these certain disease control zones, quote, disease control zones. And they are setting up restrictions in these disease control zones as well too, travel restrictions, and even backyard chicken farmers and chicken enthusiasts, homesteaders, all could be affected by this as well too. They could be subject to these quarantines and travel restrictions of their animals, and they might not be able to even buy animals in these certain areas. All right, hatcheries might be shut down, and places like Tractor Supply, Rural King, things like that might not be able to sell chickens as well too in these travel restricted areas. And if you get caught with some chickens, who knows, all right? Who knows what they would do? Probably not much, but they could in the future, all right? They're setting the groundwork for this bird flu here, all right? It goes on to say that the CDFA has taken additional actions to monitor for and combat the spread of these infections in California herds, including but not limited to, quote, trace investigations to identify farms at risk of transmission, halting all movement of cattle, poultry, and products at high risk for spreading virus off of infected farms, establishing movement control zones for dairy and poultry to protect unaffected regions, requiring and auditing enhanced biosecurity on infected dairies and all poultry farms in a disease control zone, working with environmental protection agencies to safely manage mass mortality material, decontaminating infected poultry farms, and managing and coordinating research into mode of transmission and animal health impacts of this novel flu. Okay, so that's a lot. Disease control zones, enhanced biosecurity, and establishing movement and control zones of dairy and poultry to protect unaffected regions, right? This sounds like a complete takeover of the farming and agricultural industry inside of California, all right? The dairy and poultry industry is being completely taken over right now, and having these restrictions put on them and having to test their animals. And if they test positive, they come in and get rid of all the animals. They kill them all. They get rid of them, slaughter all the animals. That's just the reality. And there's been over 100 million chickens already that have been wiped out from this, okay? And these are laying hens, and most of them are, and you normally have a laying hen at least for a few years in production in these mass production facilities, and it takes 6 months to a year for these hens to get up to full production as well too, to be fully grown and to be laying full-size eggs every single day like you want them to be. It takes 6 months to a year for them to get to that phase, right? So this is a big hit. It's going to take years to recover already, and now we are seeing these restrictions go into place, and we could see further clampdowns in the future, right? So let me know what you guys think about this down below, of these restrictions, these testings, these travel zones that they're implementing, all these different things. It seems like it's giving them a lot of authority here to do what they want. All right, the executive order is pretty broad. All right, this is text from the executive order from Governor Newsom's website, the california.gov website, and it seems like the wording in it is very broad and allows for a lot of leeway and wiggle room, okay? And something else that I thought was interesting too is that this CR that is now in Congress, and they're trying to ram through right before Christmas, before the holiday, when everyone's not really paying attention, and all this other stuff's going on. There's a bunch of other stuff going on. And they're trying to ram this into the CR, where they are giving more funding, right? Extra funding. This is in the bill. It says, quote, regional biocontaminant research laboratories. And it says here, in general, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, referred to in this section as a secretary, shall make awards to establish or maintain, as applicable, not fewer than 12 regional biocontaminant laboratories for purposes of, quote, conducting biomedical research to support public health and medical preparedness for and rapid response to biological agents, including emerging infectious diseases. Okay, so something I thought was interesting. This isn't even a typical funding bill, like a budget package that they normally present for the year. This is just a continuing resolution that they're trying to sweep in at the end of the year before Trump gets in and get all these goodies and stuff in. When nobody's paying attention, everyone's trying to focus on Christmas and the end of the year and everything else going on. And they're squeezing this into extra funding for 12 different regional biocontamination labs, which I believe these are already in place. All right, we already have these biolabs in place, but they're giving extra funding for, quote, medical preparedness for, quote, and rapid response to biological agents, including emerging infectious diseases. So maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe it's related. I'm not saying it is, but it's a coincidence at least. All right, so let me know what you guys think down below. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up out there. Don't freak out from the situation, all right? But we could see more shortages of milk, dairy, eggs, all these things. It seems like there's a major clampdown on it of animal proteins. These are the main protein sources in America's meat, all right? Cattle, beef, pork, and poultry, right? Chickens and their eggs. These are like the main protein sources, and 2 out of 3 are being really clamped down and taken out right now from these quarantines too. So hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up. This is also just another warning sign for you to get some chickens and maybe get a dairy cow. All right, if you're already past chickens and at the next level, maybe step it up, get a cow, get a beef cow if you have room or space, money for that. Maybe it's time to do it, all right, before things get even worse in this situation. So thank you guys. Hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.